I just want to talanoa, talk kōrero with you so much. I'm bursting. Dr. Selina Tusitala Marsh, Poet Laureate, former Poet Laureate. You're an
officer of the New Zealand
officer.
Order of Merit.
Thank you. You're a professor at the University of Auckland.
Yeah. How did that happen?
So good.
It happened because of lots of hard work.
Exactly.
I'm trying not to dismiss or diminish what I've done and am doing.
I'm glad to hear that. So thanks for coming to my home to chat about poetry, creativity, your journey, your story, so many things. And I don't know when we first met, but I've got some good memories of hanging out with you. So welcome to my place.
Thank you so much for having me to your whare. I know it's been a while trying to kind of align our schedules, but Petra, every time I see you, you are light and love, and you leave me a little bit shocked. And I remember what it is to be kind of vibrant and out there in the world. And thank you for your energy and your wairoa. Yeah.
Kia ora. I love that. That just makes my heart happy. Because I think too, I know when I'm in your company, I feel very free to be myself. Like to just sort of go there, to show up with all of me, like my enthusiastic, slightly outrageous full self, if that's okay with you.
Well, I remember one of the times we met and connected, you invited me to your little whare on Great Barrier Island, because we were running on the same beach from the opposite direction.
Yes.
And a couple of times we passed by and I saw you, and later on we realised we thought exactly the same thing, like there's leave, she's obviously
there's that
wanting
well-known person or that person who I know of.
Yeah, and she wants alone time and she's running on a beach.
And don't bother
on the
her.
barrier, and don't go fangirling all over her, just leave her be.
But I couldn't resist.
I couldn't resist.
So we did some fangirling and we ran on the beach together.
Yeah, I was trying to keep up with you, to be quite honest. But then you invited me back to your whare, and one of the things that really struck me was you showed me a book of paintings, small paintings that you were doing for a book in te reo, and what I was struck with at the time is that you would need a certain kind of permission to pursue your creative self in this area, and I was very happy to give it to you if you needed me to, but you never sent me. I think you said you'd send me something and then I would push you a little bit. But I find that that's often a role that I fall into, and I love it because suddenly I'm in this place where people are looking to me to give them permission to be their creative selves. And I think it's because, I'm quite accessible. And as soon as they show me something, I'm a believer. Don't have to convince me. It's not an evidence-based research portfolio. It's like, this is straight out of the soul, this line, this stroke, this splash of colour, this poem, this whatever. And it's one of the joys of my job, really, or using my job in order to do that.
And you are now poet, academic, illustrator. Like, you have jumped lanes. Like, if this idea of lanes has to even exist, and sometimes it's a useful metaphor. Do you see yourself then as a collaborator or a cheerleader or a coach of creativity?
Boy. Well, one of my golden rules is to not believe my own hype.
Woohoo! How's that going?
Pretty good, actually.
Cool.
I've just finished listening to Rick Rubin's The Creative Act.
Wow, I want to listen.
Oh my gosh. So one of the things I took away from Rick Rubin is that his recording studio, where he works with these renowned musicians, his studio there's nothing on the wall. There's no accolades, there's no qualifications, there's no artwork, there's not even a mirror. And when he was asked about the minimalist, environment that the artists have to enter, he said, they're not what they did yesterday, and they're not who they think they should be tomorrow. they're who they are in this creative space now, and that's when the magic happens. And I was like, oh, I love that so much, because when I look back on my life and my career, it's like I could be well tempted to stay there.
Yeah, I'll just keep doing
safe.
these poetry books in this academic space. I'll just keep doing this professorship thing here, over here.
I've made it. I don't want to lose it.
Yeah, just keep hold on to it.
Yeah. And actually, entering menopause, I don't know, some magic happens in the body.
Yes,
and
it does.
Suddenly it's like caring less of what others think and more in tuned to what's happening inside. And, as long as I brought curiosity to it rather than judgment or fear, I was able to figure out the next step to go. So it was, that when I turned 49, it really was a crossroads for me, in terms of major life decisions, this way or this way. Or you could just stay the same. But my body wouldn't let me stay the same. It wanted to move and to run mountains, run up mountains.
And you did. You ran up a mountain.
I did the Shot Over Moonlight Marathon when I was 49 with some amazing woman from Waiheke Islands Trail Tribe, and we trained and we did it, and I did it it was like 32 kilometers, but because the elevation was crazy, thousands and thousands, I'm not good with numbers, hundreds of millions of meters in the air. It was like I wanted to run to get to the end of myself so I could make a decision, a formative life decision. And when I crossed the finish line with my fellow runner, our trainer was there just scowling at us going, "You look way too happy to be crossing this finish line. Look at these people like collapsed on the side, and you two are giggling and laughing." So what I discovered about myself is really basic, like, I need to move to be happy. I need Papa Tuanuku constantly surrounding me in order to feel like I can do whatever I want to do, And I did get some clarity as well.
Did that signify change? Do you make sure, now I'm going to move my body like this, now I'm going to be outside like this? Or does it confirm something and so you embrace it? Like, what's the energy of yes to Papa Tuanuku and yes to movement?
The reason I've lived on Waiheke Island for over 20 years is because I know that there is an innate connection between being in Papa Tuanuku and being who I am, and having constant access to who I am and what I need to do in order to be happy and in order to provide for my loved ones and ensure that they're happy as far as I can, help them in their journey. I just think the mountain marathon was like, do the impossible, because I'd never even run half a marathon before, or half a marathon. And it was like, set something that's just outside your reach and see if you can touch it. It's like reaching out to the Jesus's hem. I can do it.
And you can.
Yeah.
Have you kept running? It's
Well,
not the point. It's
no.
not the point. Doing the marathon is the point.
Yes.
How do you move your body now is a better question.
Well, I injured myself doing like walking.
It happens.
And so stopped running for about 18 months and thought my life is like, that was my part of my identity. I've got a Poet Laureate portrait where I'm running with the toko on the side of the hill at Mātiatia Bay on Waiheke Island. But the walking slowed me down, and the walking, I touched base with another kind of cadence in my life, and walking seemed key.
Seemed to balance it up.
That's right.
It's so interesting you say that, because I took up running at 41, 42, and I ran my little heart out, and running was like my happy place where I would run for 30 minutes and I would wake up and think, where is my space to run? Because once you're fit, once you've got the, whatever that is called, the cardio fitness, it's a different zone to actually getting it, which is possibly pure pain. And so I had this thing that was just releasing serotonin and dopamine into my system. And then I ran my first half marathon, and that was it. I stopped. I had to stop running altogether, and I felt like my body was saying, "Tai-ho, like just let's breathe here for a minute," and I just couldn't be judgy about myself for it. Like I entertained the idea. See, I knew that would happen. You'd do something and then you'd stop. I knew if you took a break, you'd never get going. There's that voice. But I also thought, the season that I'm in, I feel like my body is saying, can you take it easy on me? Can we journey through this transition together in a way that is kind? Now, I'm not suggesting everybody gives up running at 48, 49. I'm just saying that it was an interesting thing to look at new ways to move my body. And like you say, what's the cadence? Where's the cadence? Where do you find it?
Well, I was quite happy just to keep walking because I have a dog and so for almost 2 years I was walking, and then I was walking in the bush on Tarata Trail and I just felt like running.
Yeah.
And so I began running again.
Awesome.
And it's like, oh, this feels really good. And I didn't put on my Strava, to time it.
Yep, I hear you.
Nothing.
Yep.
And so now the magic spot for me is like running in the bush maybe 3 times in the week and walking the rest and biking and, being outside as much as possible. And that's a real change for me because, competitive me is like, no, you must do it.
Train for this. Yeah. Achieve this time.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a different cadence in itself.
It is.
A different rhythm.
When I run with my hair out in the bush, I'm in my happy spot. Like, I've got my Staffy Cross running next to me and we are just going. And when it's raining, that's when I love running the most because very few people have their dogs out. My dog just attacks any dog bigger than him, and it's
problematic.
Yeah.
It's socially unacceptable. Slightly embarrassing.
But the changes in my body, rather than resisting them, it's like, okay, so okay, girls, okay, thighs, okay, tummy, what are we up to now? Like, what's going to make you feel good? And the other thing is swimming as much as possible, where we live next to a reserve and it's a 30-second, meandered down to a little bay called Takirau Bay. Just forget I said that because we don't want anybody there because I just might be naked if you come up. So, and it's really tidal and it's just...
it's horrible bay, don't swim there.
Yeah, no.
Sharks. There you go. See,
go to Onatangi.
Yeah. So good. Oh, man. I love that. There's something... What a privilege, to live in a country surrounded by water. Like, what a privilege to be so many places so accessible to the sea.
And what a privilege it is for me to be in this mindset where I don't have to be the expert or know this much in order to try this thing. And, that was a really smooth segue into, because I was thinking beach, water, and I do my yoga down at the beach as well. And so, I follow Yoga with Adrienne. And
that was one of the first things we bonded over, Yoga with Adrienne.
She just opened up the whole world of my body to me.
Yeah. I still do it.
Yeah, good.
I've got hubby on board. We do it in the morning. I feel like I'm learning to breathe. And I feel like I might have to stretch for the rest of my life. Stretch and strengthen. It's different. It's attaching. It's like this body belongs to me, like you say. And this muscle sits on this piece of bone. Yeah. And this bone is attached to this other bone. Yeah. And they're all part of me. Yeah. It's a good thing, hey?
It is. It's wonderful.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. But also that to give yourself permission to not be so great at something and then
not be flexible and do yoga, not have rhythm and do dance,
that's right,
not be fast and do running,
that's right,
but you do need to be able to keep your head above water if you want to swim.
Well, you
learn how to
float.
Float, that's good for you. I love this movement. It's probably a metaphor for the whole season, isn't it, of perimenopause and menopause. It's such a fulcrum, I think, for women.
Well, I discovered actually how I also then re-sprained my ankle was in my lounge doing Body Groove.
Wow. Show it to me.
Which is just like, these 5-minute dance routines where anybody can move their body to reggae music or whatever music. And it's just, I just discovered, like, I don't have to move along this plane there's other ways of doing it.
You were with your hands. You were like a straight line forwards.
Yeah,
you don't have to move in a straight line forwards.
That's right. So I was doing you had to flop on the ground and then get pulled up by a certain body part. And that's all about core strength, and so
like
rise,
let your shoulder rise up.
Your shoulder is the first thing to rise up, and I did this, and then rise up from your hip, and then somehow I twisted my ankle on the day that I was leaving to go to Europe with my baby son. So we had to do Edinburgh and London on a sprained ankle.
No,
I know. We still walk 20,000 steps a day. It's really good.
Oh gosh, how's your ankle now?
It's really good. I'm running. I'm
running again.
Running slowly. Yeah.
Nice. Can we talk about poetry for people who perhaps have put such childish things behind them? Like this idea. Like I think because I did a degree in painting, and I meet people and they go, "Oh, I couldn't even draw a stick figure. I don't have a creative bone in my body," and my suggestion to them is that they create meals, they create conversations, they create atmospheres, they create homes, they create relationships, that we have about 110 creative bones in our body. Can you perhaps open the door for us on maybe what makes a poem, or what's the point of a poem?
Oh, nice question. Well, first of all, I've never met anyone who has that kind of snooty attitude towards poetry. It's more fear-based. Okay. It's more, my experience at school was that I was shut out, nose pressed against the glass of a thing called a poem. I couldn't access it. It made me feel dumb. I just wanted to get through it as quickly as possible in an exam or a test and
get in, get out.
Yeah. So, and to use a concrete, specific example, I design and facilitate a poetry program called for leaders, for Pasifika leaders, called Growing New Leaders, and new is spelt NIU, and it's the tree of life. It's the coconut tree, and that's our central metaphor. And these are leaders from the corporate sector. This is middle management. This is the Brown Brigade. At middle management, can't quite get through that glass ceiling for whatever reason, and they're from Auckland City Council, the banks, the Fletchers,
everywhere.
I worked with 19 people from the Fletchers group. These were site managers and engineers and construction leads,
project managers.
It's like. And so they come into this program, and so I co-facilitate with Jeremy Leslie, and he takes care of the team building stuff. But my whole thing is, to use a poem for these Pasifika leaders to grow their roots into the ground, exactly where they are, how they are. Because there's a lot of kind of leaving cultural cells at the corporate door.
Yes, there is.
And so this
can be called code switching. Will we put on our Palangi or our Pākehā coat? If you're from another culture, you know that within this system, which is a white New Zealand European or Pākehā system, I must make sense. And so therefore I'll put on my Pākehā coat and show up as a Pākehā.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So
and Pākehā don't know it until they know it, right?
That's right.
We don't know it until we've got a friend who says, "Oh yeah, I code switch all the time." Yeah. These things are funny. I went and was interviewed by a group of Samoans, and they started asking me quick fire questions, and it was like they were speaking another language. I realised I didn't know because I'm not Samoan, and I didn't know how to code switch because I don't have to because I'm a European. But what you're saying was that these people want to be leaders and they're having to check their Pasifika self at the door.
Correct, yeah. And my thinking around why very few Pasifika leaders break through that glass ceiling, and this is just from my creative poetic perspective, is, well, if you have to leave most of yourself at the cultural door, you're unable to enrich that space, place, or the people around you fully, with integrity. And so I use the poem, we make a poem, we build it over 10 months, one day a month.
Wow.
And the poem is the spine for people to investigate who they are in this nation. And, you know, I'm having to, like, we go through the history, we go through, you know, the dawn raids, we go through moments of cultural trauma that have been either swept aside, or we don't talk about that, or, you know, and if they've informed people's identities, we bring that, a little bit of that into the poem. And the poem's all about letting people, like, getting them to articulate where they've come from, where they are, so they know where they're going. And it's all based around a metaphor. So they're asked to bring something concrete, tangible from their lives, and without knowing it, that's the thing that they work with for 10 months, because the metaphor contains the magic of their story, their connection, who they are, and it speaks to them. Like, I give them tools to unpack what the metaphor is saying about them. So, for example, one woman, she worked for Victor, amazing Cook Island woman, just dynamic, but she kept changing her metaphor. And, you know, she came to me on the 4th session almost in tears going, I just don't know what my metaphor is. I keep doing this and this. And I just said to her, Taina, go to the bathroom. She's like, what? And I said, go to the bathroom and look in the mirror. And she came back and I said, what did you see? And she goes, well, me. And I said, what did you see? Describe to me what you saw. And she goes, well, I'm wearing my black pearl earrings and my black pearl necklace that my mum gave me. And she goes, I'm a black pearl. And then, you know, and then she went away and researched it and found out that pearls are made from the grit of life. That's one of the lines in her poem. Came from a really tough background, spun it into beauty, you know, and it just told her story in a way that she'd never connected with her story and her family name.
And so then I hear you creating opportunities for people to anchor to themselves, anchor to their whānau, their family, anchor to their land. Like, that's an anchor point. A metaphor like that becomes a an anchor.
Yeah, well, and the beauty with a metaphor is that it's cross-cultural. You know, you don't need to be able to speak a language to access a metaphor, or be able to dance that particular dance, or come from this particular family line, or have gone to this particular church. The same metaphor speaks to people in completely different ways, you know, and so we all bring our reading experience to something, our life experience, and the stories are just kind of latent, right? They're just waiting there underneath the sand like cockles, just to be dug up a little bit. And it makes my heart sore to be able to take unbelievers and convert them.
She's an evangelist for poetry.
I know I am, because I get all these burly Fletcher guys, right? And they're like, we've got to suffer through the poetry stuff before we get to the, you know, how to have courageous
proper strategy stuff. Sorry.
But they fully engage after I, you know, because I do a bit of research and a bit of this and that and show them. But come graduation night, everyone gets up. They've got their work colleagues, the CEs of their companies, their family, and they get up and they say, this is the hardest thing I've ever done, and they speak their poem. And like tears and, you know, laughter, and it is a way to to dig deep their tūranga waiwai in this nation.
For Pasifika leaders who don't get to go on your course, aka the rest of us, how do we find a place for a poem in our lives? How do we take our little face from being pressed up against the I don't understand window?
Yeah.
Like, what have you got a little something? I love poetry, but part of it I think is, for me, I don't have to understand, I don't have to comprehend the poem, I don't have to know what's going on. I feel like I can hold the tension of not knowing and engage with what shows up. So for me, a poem is quite an emotional thing. It can be very cerebral, can be wordplay and funny and connected in lots of different ways. But I remember reading Tightrope, one of your collections, Apostle, in it. and weeping before I had hit perimenopause, so I didn't cry all the time. So it was significant because I remember, and it was about, can a poem be activism? Can a poem make a difference? And this horrific story of a woman who was murdered, abused and murdered, and the power of the poem, like cutting into my heart. And so for me, I'm like, I love poems, but for somebody who's been kept out or not felt like they had permission to just play inside of a poem or wonder or explore.
Yeah, I think it's in Charlie McKeesy's book, The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse, where the little boy asks the mole, is there a school of unlearning? And so first of all, I've got to take everyone through a school of unlearning. And, you know, I do that with just 2 lines from Maya Angelou. And she wrote, a bird doesn't sing because it has the answer. A bird sings because it has a song. And everyone has a song. Therefore, everyone has access. Everyone has the right to write.
So good.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, and you can't hear nodding in a podcast, right? Like, I've been nodding so hard. I'm like, you have to watch this one online to see all the nodding that I've been doing while you've been talking. And I just agree. I agree.
Also, so as part of that school of unlearning, and I love that, as part of that school of unlearning, it's like going back to that old image or old kind of wisdom that creativity is a muscle.
Yeah.
And we just need to exercise the muscle.
I agree.
So we do exercises. So we do writing exercises that anyone can do.
Yeah.
You just have to begin on the page.
And look, we have this kind of idea, I think, maybe from school, childhood painting or childhood English, that every work is a finished work of art, right? That every work is for display or for marking or for judging or for grading. This is not the case with creativity. I make a lot of work when I'm painting with inks that I'm like, oh, tried that, didn't work, tried that, no, not so much, tried that, oh, that might work if I tweak it, this, and then I do one and I'm like, I like that one.
I love that. Well, Mophead would say mistakes are made for making.
So good. And there's another aspect, and that is that we can be very easily wounded as children. You sing, and so I hear that children sing. Children just sing and sing and sing, and then get to a certain age and somebody says, you can't sing, and that's it, shut up shop, no singing. Or you can't draw, or what's that supposed to be? Or whatever it is, it's so easy for us to just get bruised creatively. So it's almost like we have to say to ourselves, I'm a creative person and I can have a go at creating.
Well, that's why I needed Julia Cameron, The Artist's Way. It's a 12-week creative recovery process based on the AA rules,
Wow.
And the tools that I still use from going through that book, the most important, well, there's 3, but the morning pages, when you write 3 pages with longhand every morning, just to get out what's stuck in your mind and blocking often. For me, I exorcise the internal censor, and I get that voice out. I get Darren out on the page.
Is it based on a real Darren?
You're not good enough.
Oh, yeah.
Your poems rhyme too much. It's not real poetry.
Get out. I love rhyming poetry.
I know, right?
It makes me so happy. Why is being happy less intelligent? And why is rhyming less academic? Like, who wrote these rules?
Well, I remember...
Get stuffed.
When I wrote Fast Talking PI, which is like...
hip-hop poetry.
The poem that I was most well known for and went viral in schools, and it wasn't a male Pākehā, Darren. It was a Pasifika woman poet. And she took me aside and she said, well, maybe you shouldn't rhyme so much. And I put that line in my book, Mophead, just before it won the awards. So it's like only you can sing your own song. Only you know your own song. Don't sing someone else's song. Don't sing at that level or that pitch, or just, run in the bush and sing.
In the rain with your dog, who may or may not attack another dog.
Yeah.
And I love something, I have run across Rick Rubin and I need to read his book, but something I found super creative that super helpful that he said about creativity recently was, my art is a diary entry. So who is anyone to say that's not what your experience was supposed to be, Rick, or that's not what you really thought or felt, Rick. He said, create what you want for today, not for forever. Don't think about the forever. It's like, make the art you feel like making for now. Do a diary entry.
Well, one of the books that was pivotal in my crossroads moment when I was in perimenopause was Glennon Doyle's Untamed.
Yeah.
And I just love the line that she had, like she said she was so busy running around asking people for directions to the map of her own life, like what should I do? Her life. Who am I? And she's the only one with the map to her own unique, specific light. She knows her terrain. She knows, So, I love all we need is time and space to create our own time and space. So my little ritual in the morning is to get up, coffee and journaling straight on the page, and then take the dog for a walk or a run. And if I don't do that, I don't feel anchored in the day. Because what the journaling also does is it shows me that I value me, my thoughts, my life. I'm designing my life. And then I can look outside and see, everything else that everyone else wants, would like me to do, or this or that. But I kind of have that anchor deep in the sand. But anchors move, which is good.
Yeah, they come up and down.
Yeah.
You need them. You need to be moving sometimes and anchoring sometimes. Okay, I've got a question for you before we even pivot away from this creativity-specific conversation. For somebody who's interested and they hear your thoughts and they think, that's lovely, and Selina's a writer, that's so lovely. For somebody who doesn't want to be a writer, what could be their window into just experiencing or enjoying creativity more? Like for somebody who might never pick up a pen. Well, the primary act behind every creative act is the ability to observe, to see what's actually around you, and to celebrate in what you see, to see the beauty in what you see. So it's an awareness that you bring, that if you decide to walk somewhere or even look out your window and you choose to not just see a bush with the sun shining, but to see it in a way that has you appreciate life where you are. Like, to me, that's the purpose of creativity, to connect us with the atua, right? Because this is life. It's ola, mauri ola, the spirit of life. And that comes through the eye and the ear and the taste. And, even if you're baking a cake, and just to take the time to savor what's on the tip of your tongue, that's creativity. It's like you were saying before, we're always in the act of creating. I also think that being able to receive beauty in your life, you can be actively looking, but also just figure out what brings you joy. It could be that spotless pile of folded washing and the t-shirts all facing that way, and so that can often give me joy.
That gives me some joy. That gives me some joy, especially if someone else folded them.
Yeah. No, but if the t-shirts are folded correctly, that really does bring me joy. Fold them with the thing out, fold them with the shoulders back to back. Anyway, there's so many different ways to fold a t-shirt.
But I think it's breaking the boundary, breaking those really tight definitions of what creativity is and does, and what shape or form it should take.
I'm nodding loudly again.
Yeah.
I'm nodding very loudly.
Yeah.
I agree. My daughter's boyfriend has talked to her about how a tea tastes different if it's made with love. And so the other day she goes, Mum, did you like that cup of tea? And I went, actually, it's really delicious, darling. And she goes, Dan, I made it with love. I think it makes a difference. And it's like just for her, it was like bringing an awareness of some beauty to the creative act of making a cup of tea, like just caring about it a little bit intentionally. And it was so funny because it was like a blind test, right? I was like, she's like, do you like it? And I'm like, yeah. And then she's like, that proves it. But we were sitting outside before you recorded talking about creativity and nature and the creator and this looking out at my backyard, and there are so many different shaped leaves, like just in my field of view, which is not that huge. It's the diversity and the just the complete outrageous like creativity of all the different types of leaves. But it's almost like you say, it's like switching yourself on or opening yourself up to seeing that beauty.
Yeah. Well, and it's a type of transformation as well. You know, you change a little bit when something beautiful catches your breath, or you see something that you might have seen 1,000 times before and you see it differently just because of how the light falls on it. Or, you know, you put a couple of unexpected words together and it suddenly like stabs you, you know, and it can cause you pain as well, but there's a beauty in that pain, you know, so yeah, it's quite marvelous. And I've just recently taken up, it's probably too recent for me to have told you about, but I love it. I'm now the co-director of the Centre for Arts and Social Transformation.
Wow!
At the education faculty at University of Auckland.
Congratulations!
Thank you. And so that's all about how art transforms our worlds for the good.
Yeah.
And, you know, thinking specifically about the most recent project is how do we reach our kids in moments of trauma through the arts, and how do we help bring them back together again after an earthquake after COVID's hit, after this floods. And that, floods and fires. And, you know, we're going to Lahaina, Maui in April, and Lahaina town was decimated by the fires, and we're doing some work through poetry in the community to help heal this community back again, bring it, you know. And so I'm discovering the healing power of it in these different contexts, and there's something so scary about a poem and something absolutely undeniably alluring, because what the Pacific leaders found is that on paper is one thing, an amazing journey. My God, to speak it out loud, to embody it, and to have it touch everybody's ears in the room, and it becomes this living thing outside the body, that's where another magical moment happens. Yeah.
That is, I say yes to that. It's like spoken word poetry, right? Actually, it grabs you in the feels. Man, I totally...
Grabs you in the feels.
Grabs you. My mind has gone entirely blank. Oh, we know that what you are saying now is backed by science. If we are trying to learn a new way or unlearn something, we have to repeat it, I don't know, it's like 20 plus times. If we do that in play, so the sense of creativity or play, they're saying 3 times.
Wow.
We rewire our brain in play at a phenomenal rate. So we need to re-find our child, our core self, you know?
Yeah.
And play with her.
Yeah. Well,
play alongside her.
That's why exercises, not the gym exercises, but creative writing exercises where there's no right or wrong way to do it.
No success, no tick cross.
That's right. But it's that you feel that you've made something at the end of it, and it's like, wow, look at that.
Yeah.
How marvellous.
Or even gardening. That's a creative exercise. Weeding. That's a creative exercise. Can we take it personal now? Last time I think what you signed in the beginning of Tightrope was in balance. What did you say? You said, Petra, yours in balance. Selina, and I don't know if I believe in balance.
Did I?
And I know you...
Yeah, Petra, 2018.
I know! It was a lifetime ago. Do you still believe in balance? You're looking for balance.
No.
Okay.
I don't believe in balance either.
Oh, so good.
And I don't think there's actually... Like, if you look at balance dynamics when you are on a tightrope, it's not about being even, it's about being dynamically moving and adjusting, responsive every single millisecond
Wow. Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. I see it now in the context of the metaphor of a tightrope. And you're moving, like you're balanced and responding and like shifting your weight to stay on the rope. The tightrope's quite a tricky metaphor. Yes. You were also wanting to learn to say no more. No, you're taking on these new... How's that going for you? Thanks for saying yes to this, though.
Yeah, thanks. I'm glad I did. Actually, since entering menopause...
Yeah, talk to me.
Perimenopause, 3 days before COVID hit New Zealand.
Yeah.
I left my marriage.
Okay, that's big.
Yeah, that's big. And so I was like, I'm leaving. And then COVID hit and I was like, oh, I'm staying.
We're all stuck in the house together for 3 months. The timing!
So, it's been an unconventional separation since the word dot, actually, yeah. And so I share that because what I've become aware of is I can't actually force myself to do anything I don't want to do anymore. Like I feel like I'm mimicking my life if I'm doing stuff that just internally I'm all dried up there. And it's not, I used to be like, I set my mind to it, it's done. Like,
Cerebral.
my willpower
Yep.
reigns supreme. And now it's this, what Thomas More would call the mysteries of the soul, the misty mysteries of the soul. It's like, I just can't force myself to do something that I just really don't want to do. That's not to say I'm not doing things that I don't want to do.
Like the dishes.
On the smaller scale. Uh-huh. But it's led to me, leaving my marriage. It's led to me not separating conventionally. Like my husband we live together on our family property now, and we're working through what that means to be separated and living together, and lovingly bringing up our children.
I hear you. They are man-childs.
Men children. Yeah, 25 and 21-year-old. And a lot of my friends, mostly Pākehā friends, are like, "You're nuts. This is crazy. This is not clean.
Oh,
this is very financially and emotionally messy."
Huh.
Yeah,
like life is not. like breaking up is not. Like
I'm just like, we're Samoan. It's how we do it. Like we can do it whatever way we
can.
That works out for us. Yeah. So that question of saying no, again, it's less willpower now and more, can I actually do that? Can I actually do that? So the taking up of the co-directorship of CAST,
yes,
the Centre for Arts and Social Transformation, I've shifted my service role from the English department to education, essentially, because my research with impact in the community found a more natural home there.
Right.
In the English department, which I love dearly, and that is my home too, it's quite isolated.
Yeah.
Don't need to talk to anybody, don't need to be involved in team projects, don't need to just do my own thing in my office and, write the books. And,
Not so much the whole of you.
Yeah. And so I actually, followed, that was a soul choice and decision, and the universe moved things around, so it just became a matter of walking through that door and then the next door and the next door. And I don't know what it's going to be like, and frankly it's quite scary. Any change is scary, but it's also really exciting. So in terms of saying no and designing, taking more of a designer's hand to my life, and I'm 52 now, so it's like, I'm not going to live forever. What? Okay, better do stuff. Like I've just almost bought my first car.
Wow.
I know.
Explain to me. Like, how did you not have a car ever before in your whole life?
No. Well, my husband would bring home cars, and I'd be like, oh, cool, sweet. It's like gets me A to B, or, you know, a boy would want another car, so I'd get their old car, and then I decided, like, maybe 3 months ago, I just went, I want to choose and buy my own car.
Cool.
And then I saw the car.
Oh, you saw it.
I
It spoke to you.
It spoke to me. It's like a 4-wheel drive manual little Suzuki Jimny. I'm like, it just makes me happy. It's like I'm driving a Lego block around.
So good.
Well, I haven't picked it up yet.
Okay.
I haven't signed the papers. I'm about to.
Buying a car.
Yeah.
Buying your first car. What colour is it?
It's black.
Oh, so fun.
I know.
My mum wants one of those. It just makes that called to her too. She's like, that's the car I want. That would just make me so happy.
Well, I didn't want to share it with you because you've got a Tesla, and I just thought, oh, they're going to think I'm evil. No, okay.
I think we're the evil one. Like, everybody's evil, aren't they? Really. Anytime.
It just gives me joy. But Petra, it's taken me 3 months to give myself permission. Like, I earn good money. I've worked since forever. You know, we pay the mortgage and share joint accounts and pay, you know, this and that. And it's like my indulgence is buying Lululemon gear and traveling, like, and eating well when I travel. That's it. So I'm really excited.
We could talk for half an hour on giving ourselves permission.
Okay.
We don't have time to do that. But I used to give myself permission to exercise if I'd got enough done that day. Isn't that hilarious? You were allowed to keep fit and maybe do something for yourself. You're allowed to go out and run if you've done enough. And I was like, hang on, that's not quite right. I don't think this is right. And then we're supposed to exercise and then do all this stuff. You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing that's like a building block on. Anyway.
Man, the depths of our deprivation.
So this feels like a season where things were really shaken up for you. Perimenopause and menopause was this like fulcrum of change. How are you feeling on this side? Have you graduated to menopause?
I think so.
No periods for 12 months?
Yes.
Same.
Yeah.
No longer in the waiting room.
I think so, but you know, I fell into it. Like, I didn't even realise what was happening.
So good.
I'm sleeping through the night more. I didn't even realise what the hot flushes were about. Like, I was just so dumb about it, you know. And it's almost like the payoff for not being fully aware of what was happening is that I didn't have the opportunity to story about anything. It was just like, oh, I'm really hot and sweaty now. Oh, now I'm not. Now I'm cold. No, now I'm hot. Like, you know, it's just like, oh, okay. And I was too busy to really take notice. And I was really thankful that, you know, then when I began looking into it, like my partner got me Dr. Christiane Northrup's Women's Health, Women's Wisdom. So there was a chapter, massive chapter on menopause, and I went, that was at the Featherston Booktown Festival. I was like, it was a second-hand thing, and I was just like, I just devoured it. Like,
that's what's been going on.
I know.
Culturally, as far as, do you know, Tuvalan, Samoan, is there a menopause?
Don't know. It was never talked about. Mum never talked to us about our periods, let alone anything else. I don't think she, you know, it was just the big thing that was never really spoken about. We had to figure it out on our own.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm talking to my little sister about it now.
Nice.
You know.
Yeah.
But also it just made sense, like with Northrup's kind of research about what's happening internally. And one of the things that I took out from it was you're kind of physiologically at that prepubescent stage,
yes,
where anything is possible.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, that's so interesting. That's why I looked at my life and thought, do I want to keep going this way, or do I want to risk and change and see where I land, you know? And that's the path I chose. Yeah.
How are you feeling about it?
Life's pretty amazing. Life's pretty spectacular, and we love who we love, and I believe they stay in our hearts forever. So to be in my situation now and to be surrounded by love is just extraordinary. I'm writing about it, of course. You know, I wrote about it in Whatnot. You got the latest Mophead installment. You know, it was a big knot that I had to use creativity and writing to help loosen that knot, to bring some light into what it is I really wanted at this stage of my life. Yeah.
That's huge. And Mophead is it called, it's some sort of a memoir. Is it called a graphic novel memoir? Or is it called a...
Yeah, a graphic memoir.
Graphic memoir.
Yeah.
And then there's been Mophead 2, and now What Not You Got.
And now What Not You Got.
Which is pretty profound. Like you just brought it over, and I've just been having a look at it. And it's a collection of notes, or what you would call a knot. Yeah. Where kids share their issues, their knots, the things that they're stuck on or stuck in or hurting on with you. And then you help them navigate their way through those knots to untangle or to soothe or to all sorts of things.
Just to move through it and not stay stuck. And, you know, the book was driven by really pragmatic reasons. Like, you know, over 2 years, I got over 2,000 knotty questions from kids from all the schools that I visit, and I can't answer every single one of them. And, you know, many of them would address their knots as "Dear Dr. Mophead," you know. So I decided, okay, let's do this together. Yeah.
Such a resource for young people. But I feel like
All
I could go
ages,
through this and actually like really end up feeling freer.
Yeah.
I should hold it like that. Yeah. Blatant. And made with love. Tastes better made with love. I can feel the love.
With love. Yeah. And wait, like twice the amount of time that like a research article would take. So that's like 3 years. Wow. Go to woe, you know. So I have
I can see the care. I can taste the care in it. Seriously, when I even just dipping into it, I'm like, wow, that's so beautifully considered. Yeah. I'm going to ask you a question I finish every podcast with.
Okay.
And it is...
Oh.
I know. We need to keep talking.
I forget what the question was.
I know, I'm going to tell you.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what? What would knowing that we don't live forever, what would your 85-year-old self say to you today? What would Selina? You picture her wherever you wish her to be. Is she floating in the sea or walking in the rain? What would she say to you?
What would she say to me? Man, you were good.
Yes, she would.
You were good.
Your 85-year-old self is very wise and honest and beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you. We talked about you maybe sharing a poem with us because it's one of the things you do so well. And if you're still open to it, would you like to choose a poem?
Yeah, well, I will share the poem, my own, I didn't realise it at the time, but my own leadership poem, but actually it's my Tūranga Waiwai poem that was born fully formed in 1996, and it hasn't left my side since.
Wow.
And it's what I recite. It's what I recited before I performed for the Queen. It's what I recited before I was with Obama. All those major life events, all the small performances. So, Tusitala, teller of tales that I never heard till yesterday, born away for another life. Today, the tale I tell is theirs and yours, a way of seeking some more of more of my sacred centre. Today the tale I tell will book its way through tongued histories, sanctioned mysteries, spaces of silence, timeless lives. Tala Tusi, tell the book, word the spirit of brown, in theory and creativity we make our sound renown.
So good!